I'm presenting to you 3 topics and 8 questions. I'll tell you them as we go along, so not to spoil it, but we'll start at the topic of moons. My first question is, where did the moon come from? To answer this question, I found 2 theories, but we don't actually know how, considering it happened several millions of years ago and no one we know of is still alive since then. Moving on, the first theory is that the moon came from somewhere else in the universe, possibly a large body of rock from our solar system or maybe from another one. This theory is backed up by the fact that it is predictable and it also seems perfectly reasonable, but there actually is no evidence. The second theory is much more interesting. There was possibly another planet named Theia, too bad that's not Earth's name, it's pretty cool, which crashed into Earth. When this happened, a piece of the Earth broke off and began orbiting the Earth, aka the moon. This theory is a little more reliable because the Earth and Moon are made up of similar minerals. This gives me the smooth transition into my second question, which is, what is the moon made of? As I mentioned just now, it's made of minerals just like the Earth, including iron, sulfur, nickel, and dozens of other ones too. As for its surface, it's actually not cheese like I'd hoped, but rock, 50 kilometers of rock from the surface towards the core. And the moon, once again copying the Earth, how rude, also has a core made of lava and magma, which is all those dark spots you might see when you take a picture of the moon or see a picture of the moon. This question was pretty boring because no one really cares if it's not cheese, but luckily that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. Just kidding. I still have quite a few topics left, like I mentioned at the start, so sit back and enjoy my third question. Why do other planets have more or less moons? If you didn't know, the outer planets are the ones with more moons. This also brings back a little bit of my gravity presentation. Remember how I said our moon doesn't get sucked up by the sun because it's closer to us than the sun? Well, hopefully you remember. Otherwise, you can pack your bags and go if you're not going to pay attention. I'm just kidding. That's not always the case, though. Some moons are so far away from their planets that the sun can pull them away. More specifically, the inner planets, which explains why the outer planets get to keep their moons while the inner planets are sitting there getting robbed by the sun. But, to be fair, the sun is very important. How important, you might ask? Allow me to explain in the next topic and the next question. First of all, wow, I'm on a roll with these transitions. So smooth. Anyways, my next topic. The sun/the stars, but mostly the sun. Well, instead of ranting on about how important the sun is, I decided to research what if there was no sun. Well, firstly, we would quite obviously be in complete darkness. Or so I thought. Then I realized we would still have the light of the stars and all the man-made lights, like the light bulbs we have. Other than being in continuous nighttime, it wouldn't be darkness, but it would be nighttime. We would also lack the heat provided by the sun, meaning the surface of the Earth would freeze over. Sadly, without the sun, no animals or humans would be able to survive that cold, except for one animal species called tardigrades. You might have heard that before, but they would survive. They don't need much sunlight, heat, or oxygen to survive, so the sun disappearing wouldn't really affect them. But not only would our planet be uninhabitable, it would also fly off into space. Since the planets orbit the sun, which I also mentioned in my gravity project, without the sun, everything in our solar system would go flying away, never to be seen again. Though, if you really wanted to know, we would either get caught up in another solar system, swallowed by a black hole, or just continue flying away forever. Not that that matters, considering we'd all be dead anyways. On to my next question. Where do stars, aka our sun, even come from? Well, there's technically 2 words, but one term, interstellar mediums. They are the space inside galaxies where a lot of gas and dust is, but no stars, and rarely any solids. Stars form when the gases and dusts begin connecting together, packing the small particles of dust so closely together to create solids. Once one of those packed clumps of gas creates a strong enough gravity to pull in other clumps of gases, it becomes large enough to become a proper solid. Eventually, it becomes large enough to collect most of the gas from that medium, and most of the medium becomes part of the star clump. After millions, you heard me right, not minutes or hours, but millions of years, it becomes big enough to pull in large bodies of rock from further away, since, like I mentioned, no solids nearby, aka planets. the leftover gas and dust from that medium for a horizontal plate almost to guide the now almost planets into orbit. And that's why our planets orbit around the sun horizontally, by the way, and never vertically. But eventually the planets form, the star/sun begins emitting heat, and a whole entire solar system is made. In billions of years, though. But since the sun is a star, do other stars also have planets orbiting them? Yep, after spending 2 seconds researching that, I realized it was a pretty obvious answer. Yes, other stars do have other planets orbiting them, with each solar system having an average of 10 planets. Talking more on the topic of the sun, though, not only do other solar systems have a sun, they have 2 suns. At first I thought that was weird, but I found out that more than 50% of the solar systems we know of have 2 or more suns, meaning that our solar system is the weird one. What? Not only that, but our sun is also really small. Yes, that giant star we consider the sun is considered small. Most stars are larger than it, even up to 100 times the size. Wow, huge stars. What about huge aliens, though? And with that statement, I suppose you have a clue on my last topic, but second to last question. What do we know of aliens? Other planets, where they live, whether they will attack us all? Sadly, I can't back up this question too much or any answers I provide since we don't actually have any real data on aliens, but I'll still provide the most accurate and reasonable responses. To start, we don't even know which planets to look on. I earlier mentioned that there are other solar systems, hence other planets. Those can also be referred to as exoplanets. Exoplanets are a great place to start because there are over 300 billion stars in just our galaxy, and with each having an average of 10 planets per star, it's pretty likely something exists out there. Remember how I said that some solar systems have several stars? Because of this, the temperature can vary, but it's mostly much hotter. This could lead us to believe they would have adapted to living in higher temperatures, meaning if they ever come to invade us on Earth, they will probably set up camp in the desert first, and places like Canada, which are cold, last. Yeah, I'm kidding. I know I didn't give too much information, but I do encourage you to do your own research. I think this website would be a good starting point. I'm either going to put that in the chat, like most likely, of the Google Meet. But I know now I sound so boring suggesting you could do research. This was supposed to be fun. But trust me, this next question is quite of the fun. See, I use bad grammar to make it more interesting. No? Okay, moving on. If aliens are likely to exist, how would we have communicated with them? For this, NASA created the identical Voyager 1 and 2 spacecrafts. They, to this day, are exploring where nothing from Earth has ever flown before. Both Voyagers are continuing their over 40-year journey since they launched in 1977. They each are even further away from Earth and the Sun than Pluto. Now you're probably thinking, what? After 40 years, they still haven't found aliens? Yeah, it seems aliens don't like us and ignored our invitation to destroy us. Because if they find that, they'll obviously come to our planet and probably destroy us. But despite that, they have made it far. In August 2012, Voyager 1 made a historic entry into interstellar space. Remember that from a few questions ago? See how much you've already learned? But anyways, Voyager 2 is a slowpoke and only reached interstellar space a while back, in 2018. But that's not all. There have also been other spacecrafts, including Pioneers 10 and 11, who have also set off to find aliens. Mostly. But because of 2 reasons. One, me wanting to keep this video under half an hour, or at least 10 minutes. And 2, well, that's really the only reason. I'm going to have to again suggest that if you really want to learn about that topic, you can research it on your own. This time, though, I have several resources which I will link in the surprise Google form I planned this whole entire time. Don't worry, though, because it's not too complicated. And in my opinion, it's pretty fun. Also, no one's really going to mark it, so I suppose I'm just, going to see if anyone actually paid attention. But, yeah. And on that surprise note, I will conclude this presentation. Thank you for listening and watching, and I hope to see your response in the Google form. By the way, I'm going to put all the links for the questions I suggested you might want to research in the Google form also, which is another reason why you should go check it out. Anyways, thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot about the topic of space, aliens, moons, and the sun/stars.
The end.